Well, for some reaction, we're now joined by Dr. Hafte Gebresilassie, the Secretary of the Tigray Association in South Africa. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Peter, for having me.
All right, so this must be good news for the people of Tigray.
Well, to some extent is a good news, but I'm also disappointed with some of the main issues that are supposed to be discussed there in Pretoria.
All right, take us through what you are disappointed with.
Well, I'm hoping that the people of Tigray will get food, will get medicine, will get electricity, banking, and the other services, which has been denied because of their ethnicity. But I'm just devastated. I'm really disappointed that the main actor of the war, of course, the main spoiler will be when the implementing parties start to implement the agreement. The initial agreement is Eritrea, and Eritrea wasn't part of the agreement, wasn't part of the discussion, and it isn't even listed out as a spoiler. But Eritrea has been spoiling, killing hundreds of thousands of Tigrayans. So I'm really disappointed. This is the first one. Second, the war was, as I repeatedly stated here in SABC, the war wasn't between two parties. It is a war waged by the Ethiopian regime and its alliances from Eritrea, from Amhara, and even drones from United Arab Emirates to annihilate the people of Tigray. So in that discussion, I have heard that they downgraded as if it was a political difference. It wasn't a political difference. So downgrading this issue, the conflict is a very complicated one, but downgraded into as if it was a war between two parties is a disappointment, because it wasn't a kind of 500 Tigrayans has been killed. It's not because of part of the war. 2.2 million Tigrayans has been displaced. It wasn't because of the war. Because they are part of the TPLF. So they were killed, they were raped, they were displaced because they are Tigrayans. So downgrading into political difference is a sign of disappointment.
All right, Dr. Gebresilassie, so we assume that the fighting stops, but are you fearful then that the issues that led to war have not been looked at and could resurrect some kind of conflict, even after this agreement?
Well, I agree with half of your idea that the issue wasn't discussed well. The issue was downgraded into a political difference, as if it was a political difference between the Ethiopian regime and the TPLF. It was a war waged against the people of Tigray. So I don't agree. I feel that even the delegates from the Tigray region were forced to sign this agreement. Otherwise, how can you sign an agreement in which the main spoiler country, the Eritrean government, wasn't even just a part of the discussion? Mm-hmm. So withdrawal of the Eritrean forces was supposed to be part of and main agenda of the discussion. But I haven't heard in the final and the conclusion of the peace agreement.
All right. If I go back in time, I seem to remember Tigray holding elections that Addis Ababa wasn't happy with, and that was part of the beginning of the drama that played out. And eventually Addis Ababa blamed Tigrayan forces for attacking Ethiopian forces, and that's when the war kicked off. So let's go back before the actual armed conflict, those elections, the status of Tigray, and its place in the federal makeup of Ethiopia. Is that still an issue of contestation?
Well, you know, the war has been in the making 2 years before the actual. I don't see. You know, the issue of this attack of the Northern Command is a triggering factor. Maybe it's a triggering factor. The political difference may be a triggering factor, but the war has been in the making for 2 years before the establishment, the actual waging of, in November 2020, 2020. So that is what I call an immediate factor. But generally, it wasn't a political difference. It wasn't a political conspiracy. And you know, the election was conducted based on the constitution. It was conducted based on the constitution, and the government of Tigray was elected by 2.8 million Tigrayans. 2.8 million Tigrayans. So downgrading as if it was a political difference and just connecting as if it is between two parties is against the interest of the people of Tigray.
All right. Will the Tigrayan government honor the ceasefire, and are you trusting that Addis Ababa will do the same? Dr. Gebresilassie, can you hear me? Hello, Dr. Gebresilassie, can you still hear me? All right, it looks like we...
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I was just saying that is the Tigrayan government going to honor the ceasefire? And are you confident that Addis Ababa will also stick to the deal of ending hostilities?
I don't trust. Yeah, I'm speaking individually. This is my individual thought. I don't expect. I don't have a faith in the African Union. If you see the track of record in this conflict for the last 2 years, I don't expect, and I don't have good faith because, the African Union were siding with one party, that is with the Ethiopian regime. And on top of that, the African Union it's a toothless institution. It is a toothless organization. Even it didn't fund itself for this arrangement. It was a fund from the European Union. It was a fund from the United Nations in order to facilitate this. So I feel that the African Union has no power, has no ability, has no capacity to force these two parties to meaningfully stop the war unless the international community supports us, unless the international community puts a meaningful pressure on the parties, including the withdrawal of the Eritrean. Because Eritrea, we should not downgrade, by the way. Eritrea is the spoiler country. Eritrea has an interest, and its interest is to kill the people of Tigray. So for Abiy or for the Ethiopian regime to sit and agree, Eritrea will not agree to the extent the allied forces is chaired, is commanded by the Eritrean general. So I feel that the withdrawal of the Eritrean forces is the first thing that the African Union and the United Nations Security Council should implement for Ethiopia to go back into peace. And the constitution, the constitutional order and the constitutional boundary of Tigray has to be respected. Those things will help us to trust a build between, to trust an agreement or to trust among the people of Tigray and the remaining Ethiopian people to live together.
All right, Dr. Gebresilassie, we're going to have to leave it there for today. But thank you very much indeed for giving us your thoughts on this deal that's been signed between Tigray and the Ethiopian federal government. Thank you for your time.
I would like to thank you, South Africa, as well for hosting this. This is a breakthrough. So I would like to thank South Africa. At the same time, I would like to thank SABC for reporting this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll leave it there for the time being. And Situation is that there's a ceasefire, and both the Tigrayans and the Ethiopian federal government says they'll cease hostilities. But as you heard there from the secretary of the Tigray Association in South Africa, he's not 100% convinced that the issues that got them to war have been resolved.